guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Shelby. If you are new here, welcome to Strong Like Shelby, the YouTube channel. Here we do things fitness, nutrition related mostly. We also do some fun lifestyle stuff too as well, but most of the time we're focusing on fitness and nutrition. So today what I wanted to do was walk you through a way to assess if your ankles are in need of some mobility work, and then if they are in need of mobility work, what we can do to be working on that. So a lot of times when we are working on our squat, depth has a lot to do with our ankle mobility, and it's not really so much to do with things like your glutes not being strong enough or things like that. Sometimes it can be hip related, but today we're focusing on the ankles. So I'm going to take you through a short assessment to look at your ankles, see how things are going, and then what we can do from there if we're having trouble with our ankles to improve that mobility. So it's something you can add into your warm-ups on your leg days so that we can improve that. So let's get into it. So what you're going to need is either a wall or a box, something with a flat surface that you can be utilizing to assess your ankle mobility. So what we're essentially going to be doing is putting ourselves into a lunge position. My face is going to be out of the shot for just a hot minute, but we're going to put ourselves into a lunge position and work on pushing that knee forward towards the box. So to show you up a little bit closer, what we're doing here is we're going here, okay? So what we're going to do is measure out from the box, okay, to a specific distance. And then from there, what we're going to do is essentially see if our knee is able to reach forward to that box. If it's not able to, that is an ankle mobility limitation. Hello to this lovely lighting. And that's what we want to be working on. This distance is going to look slightly different for men and women in terms of what is considered a full range of motion versus partial or essentially limited, right? What we're looking for is if you have limited range of motion so that we can improve that. Hopefully we have full range of motion, but if we don't, we will start implementing some things to improve that. So you're gonna need a tape measure. We're gonna measure out 4.5 inches to start from the distance, okay? So if we're looking down here at our box, we're gonna take our measuring tape and go out 4.5 inches, which is not super far. I know it feels like it's super far, but it is not, okay? And that's where you're gonna put your big toe, okay? So essentially like the toe of your shoe is going to be there, okay? What we're looking to do here is then drive that knee forward and see if we're able to touch our knee to the box in front of us, okay? So this is not something that's supposed to be painful, and if we do feel pain, we stop immediately. We're just looking to see where that range of motion is, and if it is limited, okay, great, now we'll start implementing things. So this is going to be best done without shoes on. We want to make sure that the heel stays nice and flat against the ground, and I'm going to show you what it looks like for a limited range of motion versus a full range of motion where we're able to touch forward. So we're doing it from a kneeling position. You can do it from a standing position, but I like the kneeling position because I feel like it gives you a little bit more drive. And again, a full range of motion for males should be around 5.5 inches, whereas for females it should be about around 4.5 inches. If it is not that, it's considered limited, and then at that point we will again start implementing some things to improve that. All right, so as we measured out, now we know where that big toe is supposed to be. First, our limited. Another form of limited can be where the heel comes up, but the knee is able to reach, but the heel comes off the ground. And then we've got our full range, which is heel stays on the ground and knee is able to drive all the way forward. Now, if this is uncomfortable and it's causing discomfort in here, that's also a sign of a little bit of a limitation. So it may be that we need to warm up some before to get that to feel comfortable for people, or again, we just start implementing some things into a warm up to make that doable without discomfort. So now that you've seen what a full range of motion looks like versus a limited range of motion, you can test this on yourself. Again, using a box like I did is doable. You can also use the uprights of a squat rack. You can use the leg of a chair. All you need essentially is something that you can measure off of, and then do that 4.5 inches for women, 5.5 inches for men. Now, if you can't get there, do still take note of where you can. So you'll move your foot forward a little bit, maybe you move up 1 inch to 3.5 inches, see if you can do it there, or for men, you know, move it up to 4.5 inches, see if you can do it there without pain, full range of motion, heel staying on the ground. Then if you're able to do it at that point, put that down, because we're gonna wanna assess after implementing things to see if we're getting improvement. So we're gonna implement 2 different exercises today to work on that ankle mobility. They're very simple and can be added into your warm up if you need that extra work. Mobility work at the end can also be helpful, but you wanna do it while your body is warm. So make sure that you do some kind of cyclical work, 5 to 7 minutes minimally, treadmill, rower, bike, whatever your fancy is, to get some blood flow going first before we start implementing these. So you're gonna need a band. We want one that's got at least a little bit of thickness. I believe this is a 1/2 inch thickness. We can use a heavier one, but we don't want it to be crazy heavy. The goal is to have this along the inside of your ankle, and so we don't need it to be so thick that it's covering onto the foot and up into the ankle. We want it to kind of sit in between the foot and the ankle, okay? So we don't want it to be super big. We also don't want it to be really tiny because we need it to provide some resistance. So you are going to attach your resistance band around an upright or rig here, and then I'm gonna show you the details from the front of where this is going and what I'm actually doing. So once I've got my band around the upright, I'm going to put my ankle through it. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you're wanting that band to hit right in between the foot and the leg where those ankle bones are at, okay? It does not help us if it's way up here. It's not doing anything. We want it to be right in that crease essentially between the two. And what you're going to do is essentially get that band to stay there, and we're gonna rock back and forth in this position, okay? So as it's pulling this way, I'm working against the resistance to drive my knee forward, okay? You're going to feel something here. We wanna feel something here, especially if we have that limited range of motion. So we want it to stay there, and then drive into that, okay? As we're doing this, we still wanna keep the heel on the ground. It does not help us for the heel to come up, okay? And we're just going to rock into it and then back. Rock into it and then back. As we do this, we should really be driving as far as we can to get that knee over the toes without the heel coming up. As soon as we feel the heel start to come up, we stop. That's our limit. And we'll continue to do that. You're gonna do this on both sides if you need to, if both are limited. But the goal here is to just get kind of uncomfy into those extra ranges of motion that we don't necessarily have fully yet. Now, the second exercise that we're going to do is very similar in the movement pattern, but we're just adding load to it versus having resistance with a band. So you're going to elevate your foot on a box. It doesn't have to be a specific height. You just want it to be comfortable for you. We shouldn't be reaching too high or anything like that. And all we're going to be doing is adding some load essentially at the top of that knee to allow you to drive forward, okay? I have full range of motion. I can tell you I still feel work being done in this ankle because I'm adding load to it. A lot of times I'll use a kettlebell. I just grabbed a dumbbell today and it works just fine. The kettlebell might sit a little bit more comfortable, but again, we're just working through that range of motion. The keys here are the same, driving forward, but also keeping the heel planted firmly the entire time. You can do this by just rocking back and forth, but it is good to spend some time sitting in that further range of motion. Because again, remember, that's where we're trying to aim for. If you've ever seen gymnasts working on their splits, we understand how we rock kind of into those positions, and they tend to hang out there in those slightly uncomfortable positions, or they'll have their coach come by and push down on them to get a little bit further. That's kind of what this dumbbell is doing. It's the coach coming behind you to push a little bit further into that range of motion. Okay, and again, this is limited mobility. It is not anything to do with flexibility. That's a very different thing. We'll talk about that a different day. But this is all about mobility, and some people will have mobility when they are warm versus when they're cold. So that's why I highly recommend making sure that you're warm before you implement these. So those are just 2 exercises that you can start implementing into your warm-up, into your cool downs. But again, when you're warm, to work on that ankle mobility. If that is somewhere where you feel like you are struggling, if you can't get into a bottom squat comfortably, if lunges are uncomfortable at times, we can work through that with those 2 movements just being added into your warm-up routine. This isn't something that has to be done if you have full range of motion. You don't have to add this in, so don't feel like you need to just do excess mobility work just to do it. We don't need to do that if you've got full range of motion. If you liked this video, please give it a like, ask questions in the comments, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. I plan to do more videos talking through mobility. How do we find it? when we don't have it, or if it's limited, how do we improve it so that you guys can better utilize these movements to correct and improve your mobility to make sure you've got better movement patterns going forward. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.